What's going on, guys? There are 10 major mistakes you should not be making in Tarisland after playing quite a bit while enjoying the PC launch, since I am playing on PC, also being able to play from my phone since it is a mobile game as well. There are a bunch of mistakes I already see a lot of players making, but I have 10 tips to avoid those and save you a lot of time and honestly a lot of confusion, since there are a lot of things to learn in the game. Now, the first quick mistake I want to go over is some of the basics for picking your class. Now, whether you've already selected a class or plan on making a new character, the game basically breaks down all of your characters into 5 tiers. You can see over here on the right being tank, DPS, healer, melee, and range, and all of these classes are a combo of 2 or 3 of those categories. Now, the good thing is here, most all characters can be extremely good, so don't worry about having to try and pick out an OP character. Now, depending on the playstyle, you can select either the warrior, barbarian, fighter, or the paladin to give you a tank, damage, and melee build. Now, these are going to be pretty highly in demand, especially for later game dungeons and raids, so if you always want to have a group, you can definitely pick one of these 3 classes and you shouldn't really have a problem. Next are the healers, which are also in demand just like the tanks, and these are going to be the priest, the bard, and the phantom necro. But again, all 3 of these classes give you bunches of different specialties within every single one. And finally, since we have 3 of each, we have the shadow swordsman that does damage at a melee range, we have the ranger who does range damage, and we also have the mage who does range damage as well. Now again, all 3 of these are great and very fun classes to play, but again, depending on the playstyle you want to play, you should pick your character based off that and not which character you think is going to be the most overpowered, because from what I can already tell, they're all pretty balanced. You can also see the menu down here for group importance. Now, the next important thing I want to touch on quickly before I get into a lot of the in-game stuff is your actual character progression and building out your character, because in Tarisland, it's actually really amazing. You can basically spec out and build your entire character and reset it at any point, meaning you don't have to worry about messing up your character. A lot of MMOs put you into a box where they say, hey, you're going to put points in this, and once you do it, in some cases it's done and it's final. In Tarisland, you can always have the option to basically reset everything. Now, to give you an example, one of the things you always constantly want to do is go into your skill menu and actually check this every time you level up and click upgrade all, so that way you use your silver coins to upgrade, and make sure you do this every few levels. So again, your skills get stronger and obviously your character gets better for tackling the higher level content as you level up. Keep in mind, if you are on PC, you can come down here and click this skill menu right here in the development section, and it's always right here in case you happen to forget the keybind. Now, along with your skills, you can see we have our talents here, which is things you actually have to select. Now, again, once you select these, you can reset everything. You can see if I come in here and I want to right click on this, it resets it basically completely for free. And then I can put talent points back into whatever I want, or I can just click reset all and it will give me all of my points back to completely reallocate everything for no crazy cost. Now, additionally, for our ultimate abilities, again, these all do different things, such as restoring HP, allowing us to jump or leap out of the way of big attacks. At any point, you can come down in here and drag these in to replace them, and you can always do this depending on the scenario, again, for free. Now, another thing I want to mention on this topic is your inscribed stones for your character. Now, essentially what happens is as you play and complete challenges, etc., you earn this currency called inscribed stone energy. And how this happens is as you play and just casually earn this through completing challenges, achievements, whatsoever, you get this inscribed stone energy that you can then use to skill out your inscribed stone board. And at first I was scared to put any points in here and almost felt like I wanted to look up a build guide so I didn't mess it up. Again, this works the same way. All you have to do is right click on it and hit confirm, and you can actually take away your inscribed stone energy, get it right back, and spend it, and again, reallocate it for free. Again, so mess with your build, mess with a lot of the different things to test it, because you can reallocate anything, test anything. You don't ever have to worry about putting yourself into a box and screwing up your character permanently. And also, while we're on this topic of inscribed stones, there's one mistake specifically you don't want to make when it comes to this. So as you can see right now, just to give you an example, I am putting multiple points in these inscribed stones for 3 out of 3 for this crit bonus, 3 out of 3 for cooldown, and 2 out of 3 for cooldown down here, etc. And when you start playing, especially around to like level 40, you don't want to do this. Instead, what you kind of want to do is focus on getting your emblems first, and also putting 1 out of 3 for most points until you get up to around this row up here, 2 indented rows above your emblems. The reason this is because it allows you to stretch out your board, get a lot of these bonuses, and then come back and work your way through to, again, get the things like the specialization here to work into your core nodes, which will give you pretty big power bonuses for your characters. And when you select these, you want to make sure you're selecting specific things that are great for your build. For instance, here I went with the crit bonus because my build uses crit more than, for instance, Omni in this case. And again, the same thing with dexterity versus stamina here. So again, pick your main stats to expand and get these emblems first go a little bit up here, and then once you're able to come back down around level 40, start working on maxing these attributes out, so that way you again can get your core nodes, since the core nodes level is the lowest level of all of its preceding nodes as well. Now the next big thing is focusing on side activities and completing quests, because obviously that's going to give you the most XP, help you level up your character the absolute most, and give you a ton of different rewards. As you can see, I have a bunch of quests here. I'm currently level 38. The max level will let me go. Just by following and completing the natural quests that I've come along, I've been able to level up pretty highly, but also again get a lot of rewards. So you can see up here in the top left, these are essentially a list of things you want to find and complete. Just as an example, for instance, the codex here for teleport stones. The more of these you get, the more of them you complete on each individual map portion. You get rewards for them. You can see you get elementary specialization points here, which are important for some part of your character progression. Then you also get things like this, additional tokens, additional emblems, and gear this way. You also get titles and other great rewards for finishing the explored parts of each individual map segment. And you can see if you actually click view the exploration area, you can click on each thing and see all of what you're missing for each area in case you want to go and start finding some of that stuff to get some of the cool rewards that they offer. Now, additionally, via the achievement menu, one of the main things you're going to want to look out for is obviously collecting all the achievements that you've previously done. And again, from exploring the map and completing zones, you also have this achievement menu for dungeons, raid, and arcane realm, as well as a lot of the explore quests that we mentioned previously. You can see if we get any reputation to reach level 10, we get the blue phoenix legendary horse, and also some other things for our character, the red armored wolf. And again, for things like dungeons and raids, you also get a bunch of battle pass XP as well as silver coin, gold coin, and other currencies. And again, you get even more rewards here. Again, more of the dust of inscribed stone, which allows you to upgrade your inscribed stones and overall making your character more powerful. A lot of weekly challenges you also want to be completing. And again, more seasonal rank challenges giving us even more inscribed stones and medals, which I'll talk about here in just a moment. And again, the battle pass, where even if you don't have the premium version, you're still getting a lot of rewards, especially the inscribed stone and other things like that from the actual free version of it that's available to everyone. So it's important, again, to keep upgrading your character to the max. You want to make sure you're knocking out these achievements, as well as all these individual little different challenges that you're seeing, because it greatly improves how powerful your character can be. Next will be learning and specializing your specific build. And I'm going to show you a couple things about how mine is built out, so you can get an idea about how you might need to work on yours if you really don't quite know yet. So ideally, if you pull up your attribute menu, you can see all my gear here, and you can also see my level and all of my stats here on the right. Now, one of the big mistakes I see people making with Tarisland already is not finding out your stat priority, and again, speccing out your stats for your build properly. So specifically for the hunter, you can see I have my current spec for my ranger set out as hunting. And again, each class will have its own specializations. For instance, mine started as Tamed Beast, but I eventually changed it to Hunting, and each has 2 that you can pick from, meaning you can have 18 different kind of original classes. Now with your stat priority, it kind of shows right here what the priority is, meaning crit is going to give us generally the biggest overall bump to our power for our build because it's at the front. Now Omni and cooldown essentially give us around the same benefit, dexterity after that, focus, and stamina. So all this to say, you should understand this and make sure you focus on this, because if you're trying to stack stamina for your build, thinking that's going to make your build better, it will make it better, but it'll make it much less significantly better than stacking crit and omni cooldown versus stacking focus and stamina, if you understand what I'm saying. So also another big tip here is, depending on what you want or what you like for your build, you can also come down here to not only the basic attributes and hover over them to see what they do, but also the enhanced attributes. You can see primary thing is for this build. For instance, crit is one of the most important things for this build and specs out the DPS the highest. So basically with my hunter, I'm stacking as much crit as I can. So you can see my total crit rate for same level battles is 20.5%, allowing me to deal higher damage and much more frequent crits. You can see other stats that aren't on here, like combo and glancing, I don't currently have specced out a lot of points in. And when I say specced out a lot of points in, I mean primarily things that I get bonuses from my gear and my inscribed stones. You say I have crit and stamina on my necklace, just as an example. Now again, if we look at Omni, my effect bonus increases my final damage dealt, and it can be converted into damage immunity or effect bonus depending on the role, and also cooldown, which reduce our overall global cooldowns, meaning we're going to get faster cooldowns on all of our abilities, meaning we can do more damage. So when you're building out your build, focus your stats on these right here and understand what they do, because if you just simply come down here and read these to understand what you're actually doing with your character, you're going to be able to build your character much easier and have much less confusion when it comes to this. That goes the same for your skills and coming in here and reading and understanding them all, as well as your talents, because again, as we talked about, you can reset all of these for free. So testing out and understanding fully what all of these talents do, again, are going to benefit your build quite a lot. As you generate more of that specific stat, you can see my current crit is 20.5%. These are actually thresholds here on the bottom, meaning once your crit hits 16%, you get a 3.5% chance to trigger. And also the higher stat priorities you meet for this build, the more bonuses you're going to get as well, which again just enhances why that is a primary stat for the build. Another thing is you want to make sure you're logging in at least on a consistent basis to claim some daily and some actually pretty good rewards just from logging in and doing a couple of your daily tasks. For instance, we get the Perk Express here. You can see currently it's available for another 309 hours. As long as you log in for 7 days, you get all of these benefits, as well as a pet Siamese cat, which later we can potentially get more and more bonuses just for claiming these for daily login. If you come down here, you also get leisure time events that also allow you to claim other rewards for things that you can use in game that are actually very beneficial through this currency. You can see if I click available here and available again, it now gives me enough of these current points to be able to buy whatever I want. If I want to buy bait, silver coins, and attack potion, or even let's say this unicorn, which I'll currently redeem. You can see now I have unlocked my pet unicorn absolutely for free, and hopefully many more of these to come, which is why you should pay attention to it, because again, now we have our own pet little unicorn guy right down here following us wherever we go. And finally, then we can refer a friend, which means we can get a special referral reward, a pet mass raccoon, and a Mount King armadillo completely for free. So again, if you haven't done this, make sure you take advantage of it soon, and you can work on progress to that. Again, just use this code, which will also be in the comments below. Now I want to talk about some of the professions, because there are a bunch of different professions, and specifically, no matter which one you pick, you can basically level it up and have a lot of fun playing all of them and make decent profit playing most all of them as well. So the next big mistake I see is coming from professions and people using them, but not necessarily knowing how to use them or craft efficiently. So obviously you can pick any profession, either alchemist, jeweler, or the blacksmith / the forge. Now, obviously they all have their benefits. You can see here, obviously the forge can craft armor, the jeweler can craft jewelry and these jewel boxes as well. The tailor can also craft armor out of different materials, and the alchemist can craft things like potions and different runes and arcane crystals. Now, a great profession to always pick if you're ever in doubt is the alchemist, or especially the jeweler. You can make a lot of money as a jeweler early on. This is because you get these initial boxes that you can create, these tier 2 gem boxes that people are going to use specifically for their gear. Now, ideally, to best level up your profession, you need to earn proficiency in that profession. Now, you can see we currently have a 2500% cap here, and this is our proficiency level. Now, what this means is earlier on in the game, depending on how many days are currently running on the season on whatever server you're playing, there will essentially be cap points. For instance, earlier in the week, for the first week of the server launch, you will only be able to get up to 500 proficiency for your crafting. Now, again, each of these individual things that you can craft for your profession, because I picked in this case alchemy, meaning the potions that I craft will give me proficiency. You can see if I create this attack potion with 5 of these elementary solvents, I'll actually get 8 proficiency each time I do this. Again, this is going to cost you some currency, but you have to craft in order to level up your proficiency to make the higher level stuff. So it's important to just start maxing this out as quick as you possibly can. Now, it's actually really easy to focus on creating this stuff for completely free. As you can see, there are different areas on the map that are marked in these kind of icons that indicate that there are materials or resources there. Almost all of these are existent across the map, where you can get the materials for free and then jump into your profession menu and craft what you need to level up your proficiency. And you can see leveling up different finished materials gives me +4 proficiency. If I were to then use some of those finished materials to create more potions, I could then use those same materials to craft potions and get even more proficiency. And the same goes with intermediate potions and so on and so forth. And you can also see later items require a certain proficiency level, which means you have to craft the lower level stuff to get to that point once it uncaps. Now, the one confusing thing with proficiency is you can't just do all this really in one section, which is why you need to start doing it as frequently as possible, because you have to do it over time. And the reason I say this is because each crafting attempt, let's say I want to do this elementary solvent, requires 60 silver coin, which you have plenty of, and 6 of this currency, which is called vigor. Now, vigor actually restores over time. You can see it says 1 vigor point is recovered every 15 minutes, meaning it casually restores throughout the game and throughout playing over time, because eventually this will be the backlog of what you're going to run out of. You'll run out of vigor and be no longer able to craft, which again is why you need to craft as early and as frequently as you possibly can. And again, with professions, each has its own specializations depending on what level you are, again with how high leveled your proficiency is. Now they both have a bunch of different options, and the way you can upgrade these specializations is through these elementary specialization points. If you remember, we can get these elementary specialization points, which greatly help our effectiveness on our actual profession by again doing some things in games, such as one of the things again here like we talked about earlier. The more of these you get, the higher you can level up your specialization depending on no matter what actual profession it is, which can make a huge difference early and why you should focus on getting them as fast as humanly possible. For instance, my first two options here I can choose from are the Elementary Master Artisan. So when I craft elementary potions, there's a 10% chance to yield one extra product, meaning I can get bonus proficiency for my profession this way. And I highly recommend early if your profession has this dexterity perk, so that way when you craft things, your vigor consumed is actually reduced by up to 50%. That's a huge margin, allowing you to craft a lot more things. So I would highly recommend taking that specialization first. But as you notice up here, there's elementary specialization points, intermediate, and also advanced. And you can get 8 of each, so you can get each one of these specializations maxed out completely. So again, don't worry about which one to pick, because you can also reset it down here for a measly amount of silver. And using these points, you can get all 8 of these, all 8 of the intermediate, and all 8 of the advanced. And again, you can see you have to reach character level 40 and invest 8 points in these to max them out first. So the faster you max these out, the quicker you can move to the intermediate and get all of those bonuses for your profession as well. Now, one of the things I also mentioned for the professions, for instance, since I'm an alchemist, I'll be picking a lot of herbs. So you can see options like this leaf icon for my profession are located across different maps, meaning I can come here and actually pick the raw materials I need and basically just pick them as long as I want to get as many as I need. Now, one of the big mistakes I see people also making with their professions, honestly, walking over here and picking them. That's completely fine to do, and you can do that. You can see I got 2 dandelion seeds. But what you really want to be doing is using tools for your profession, and each profession has its own set of tools. Now, depending on what profession you pick, that's what profession you will generally get tools for from your rewards. Again, you'll get these rewards from things like chests and other things like completing quests throughout the game. And you'll just get these naturally as you play and finish things. So you want to make sure you try and keep all of these and don't sell them or throw them away, because they're actually extremely useful. You can see I have some elementary copper shears here. Let's say we put our shears down here just for easy access. Once we go over to anything that we can actually collect with our profession, we can simply click this plus right here, and then we can select from the available tools that we have. We can apply this tool, and what this actually does is gives us greater collection speed, potentially greater resources and amount of resources we can find, and even find rare resources just from using this tool alone and not using our hands. Now, keep in mind, these tools do have durability. Now you can see once again, we use this tool. We do save sometimes a little bit of recovery speed, but again, it also gives us the chance to find more materials as well as rare materials. You can see we found 3 dandelion seeds there. And again, continue to get more yield this way. Now, another big mistake I touched on earlier is to do with some of your achievements and challenges you want to be paying attention to, specifically your dungeon and raid challenges. Now, this is specifically because you get a lot of good things like Battle Pass XP and stuff that gives you inscribed stone material to upgrade your inscribed stone boards and keep that moving along, as well as just regular currency. But you can also see you get a bunch of Battlecry emblems here as well. And the more of these challenges you do, the more of the rewards you're going to get to power up your character, as well as these rare metals, which can again be exchanged for gear early on to help you bump up your power. Now, again, along with the dungeon challenges, you also want to focus on your raid challenges. These are specifically good for a couple of different reasons. So you can see the Root of Corrosion here for the elite dungeon. You can see we get the Phantom Shadow costume. By doing the raids, this is where you can get a lot of your cool rewards, such as different costumes, such as different mounts and consumables, etc., and other things that are just really cool for your account. For instance, this Mole Colin portrait, again, different and better costumes. Another portrait here for the Gruft, the Battle of Ancash. You can see right here, if we complete the following achievements, then we actually get the Barbaric Armadillo mount, and we can also get the Golden Armored Wolf mount. So as you continue to do these, again, we can get more costumes like helmets, and again, other mounts and different flying mounts, for instance, just for completing regular challenges for our raids, which again enhances why we should be doing them and kind of pushes us to do them because we get really cool rewards this way. So if you haven't looked at this, look in here and see which rewards might be really cool for your character. You can focus on trying to knock these out again to get not only some of the cool rewards, but as you do that, you're getting all the battle pass XP and everything else to help level up your character and boost them even higher. I also want to talk about specific dungeon challenges, because essentially you don't want to make the mistake of running out of dungeon attempts to get really good reward loot. For instance, once we start doing our original dungeons, you can see it says normal difficulty does not cost dungeon challenge attempts. Essentially, you get rewarded certain tickets for completing dungeons. What I mean by that is, again, as we continue to look through these, since we're on normal difficulty, this doesn't actually cost any challenge attempts. And you can see we can get to up to some level 80 gear that is currently blue rarity gear requiring level 30. Now, if we switch over to elite difficulty and we start looking at some of these, we start getting higher level gear at level 34, rank 90 power on this gear, as well as it being purple gear, meaning it offers us one more additional stat, making us even more powerful. And early on, especially, this is the gear you want to kind of aim for. Now you can see once we switch to elite difficulty, we currently now have reward chances 3 out of 6. What this means is when you complete a dungeon, you use one of your reward chances. And as you continue to complete them, you can essentially complete 6 dungeons and get the rewards for those 6. And then after that, you don't get these rewards shown here on this actual menu. You can see if we look at the instructions up here in the top left, each day reward chances are refreshed at 4 a.m. on your server time. They can be accumulated up to 3 days and 6 times. Dungeons are essentially the main source of equipment, especially early game. So trying to keep in mind how many reward chances you have is a big thing to pay attention to so you don't waste them all. To give you an example, if we unlock this first dungeon and we run it and get all of the rewards shown here, and essentially the next one, we can continue to get these rewards, but you don't want to continue running these lower level dungeons to collect these Tarisland chests, which can actually contain some pretty cool stuff. You want to make sure you only use the attempts you need, so that way you can save them for these higher level dungeons. The reason being is because since you level up fairly fast, by the time you get to these back end dungeons, you want to make sure you're able to run all of them consistently to get all of the higher level or the 90 power rank rewards, as well as, for instance, these elementary specialization points. If you use all of your reward chances up front on some of these dungeons, you should be doing some of these to make sure you get the challenges completed for them. But once you do them once and unlock the later ones, you should really focus on doing those to get the highest level of max gear possible. Because again, if you waste them all early, you're not going to have any chances to get rewards late. And again, you're going to have to wait until the next chance that they all refresh to continue running them. Now again, one of the cool things you can do is actually use the shop to your benefit. To give you one quick example, if you are currently power level, let's say 78 or whatever you currently are, and you're actually looking to continue to rank up and do, let's say, a dungeon, but you're missing one slot of gear. Let's say this whole entire row over here was green and much lower level gear, our power level overall would be much lower. Our combat or power level up here would be much lower. Let's say it was 50 because all this gear was green, but we didn't really know how to go about actually unlocking higher level gear. Again, the higher level gear, if you need it, can be unlocked by dungeons. For instance, as we check these out, we get higher ranked gear all the way up into the 80s, all the way for all of these different things. And if you're running the normal difficulty dungeons, again, you can run these as many times as you want and continue to get these rewards. Additionally, if you're still missing pieces, because more than likely you might be, there's a really easy way to get these. To give you an example, I was missing my hunter cape here and it was much lower level. And since some of these dungeons require certain power levels, you can see this requires level 37 or a power level of 80. If you don't have that, you can actually open up the trade menu, come to the shop, and by this point you should have earned a decent amount of silver and gold, which is fairly easy to get just by completing things in the game. You can then come in here if you're missing a piece. Let's say I was missing hunter armor. That one's 68. Let's say mine was only 50. I could jump in here, grab this for 28 gold, and then use that to power up my character to get me to that next bump. And early on, this is a great thing to do. A little bit later, you shouldn't necessarily be wasting your gold on some of this gear because you can unlock it just genuinely through playing. But early on, if you seem to get stuck, you can always look at the shop to get some lower level equipment to boost you into that mid-tier range around level 40. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be lost either, because once you unlock this and you start running those higher level pieces, once you get duplicate pieces, you don't have to sell them for silver straight out of your inventory. You can come in here and actually make a listing and sell the higher level gear. Just as an example, this purple piece that someone probably didn't need anymore, make 352 gold on it and move on to actually spend it on something else you need. And one more thing about gearing and finding pieces that you need to go ahead and progress your character the quickest is using these rare metals and target farming these dungeons. So to give you an example, we've already talked about the shop and how you can use that to find missing gear pieces. Now again, by using our reward chances through these elite difficulty dungeons, we can get these pieces right here. Now there's only certain pieces you can get via all of these dungeons, meaning you will inevitably be missing pieces that your character will need to again get up to that highest level power level of, let's say, all of my gear being purple and all of it being 90. So again, we can use the shop for that, but we can also use this other free method. By again unlocking these medals through a bunch of different challenges and a bunch of sources throughout the game, you want to make sure you're actively using these rare medals. And if you don't know where, you can simply click on it, jump down to source, and go to the different shops where they would be used. And if you want, you can actually go down here to source, and it'll tell you all the different sources that they can actually be obtained. So for instance, we'll go to the reputation shop. You can see you can actually buy some of those rare medals here once they're actually unlocked. Now, if we go to the dungeon shop, we can see we can actually buy some gear here because we have 34 rare medals. The point here is you want to save these rare medals until you run some of these dungeons, and then you can find the pieces that you need. Let's say I had all my pieces at level 90 except for my chest plate. I could then come in here and use the rare medals for my chest plate and call it a day, so we don't have to sit here and run dungeons and search for it over and over and over again in hopes that it drops. The big thing here is as you collect these rare medals, and you need gear, you need to spend them on the gear that you need. Why? You shouldn't ever just completely save them up and never spend them, because they essentially will eventually become useless. To give you an example, these can be exchanged for level 30 gear, meaning the gear on this elementary equipment screen. Once we start to unlock this intermediate screen, you can see at level around 40. Then once that's unlocked, that means we'll be finding in that level's content this intermediate level gear. And this intermediate level gear at a higher power level for all of the classes requires the ancient medals now to be able to buy this gear. And since you'll be replacing all of your elementary equipment, any more of these medals you earn or have saved will eventually just become useless. So make sure you spend them on the equipment you need now, and the game entices you to spend them on stuff that you actually need, because as you continue to level up, those medals, as you progress, again, become absolutely useless. So if you need something, make sure to spend your medals on it. Finally, if you made it this long, we have 2 quick bonus tips for you that are actually really useful as a reward for staying this long that I didn't realize you could actually do. So if you ever find something like, let's say, these medals, or let's say dust of inscribed stone, what you can actually do is hover over it, come down here to source, and when you click on source, it actually shows you all of the actual activities that you can do to get that resource. So if you ever question what you need and how to get it, all you have to do is hover over it, and their UI for this is actually really good. Again, the medals, you can do the same thing, and it shows you elite dungeon, reputation shop, and season rank. So if I go to elite dungeon, I can see right here, boom, I can earn rare medals that way. If I go to dust of inscribed stone, I can go to daily activity, and you can see I can get dust of inscribed stone here. Again, the same goes for here. If I needed glory award, whatever this does, I can click on it and say, hey, I need to go to the battleground to actually get this reward. So that's an important thing everyone should know, because if you do that, you'll be able to find your way and learn a lot of the currencies and a lot of this new stuff in Tarisland. That is kind of confusing and overwhelming if you've never played the game before. And now I'm going to also show you some of the in-game effects here of how you can actually specialize your character. You can see all of these 3 different equipment sets and different things that allow you to specialize your character pretty much however you want. You can also check this stuff out by coming down here to the appearance tab and looking at some of the sets that you can looking at some of the sets you can actually earn. Some are paid, but some can be earned completely in game, and they have different rarities to allow you to build out your character kind of however you want. So you can see if we click on the Shadow's Wrath, we can actually get this from the market, and it shows us we have to come in here, and this is something that we can buy for in-game currency. Again, if we click on something like the Mesmerizer, we can see Reward of Destiny for the exchange. Again, if we come on here and click on the Rage of Fire, we can look at the achievement, and we can actually see we can get this from an achievement specifically. Again, the UI for figuring out where you have to go is very good in Tarisland, so you can come in here and select and see exactly what you need to complete to get the exact specific things that you want on your character. Again, a lot of these equipment sets are actually really cool, and a decent amount of them you can earn completely through playing the game, as well as different flying mounts and all other kinds of cosmetic items. Again, make sure you use the link in the description if you haven't already. Download Tarisland and try playing it, and if you want, also use that rewards code that I mentioned, which will also be in the description, to start working towards some of those free benefits. If anything, this video helped you out, drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.